Imagine this. You suddenly wake up from a coma, all confused, completely alone, and you find yourself trapped inside a bunker. You scavenge whatever you can, an officer's pistol, a couple grenades, and you prepare some firebombs to defend yourself. Something is down here with you, a relentless, unpredictable monster that's always listening and always hunting. Before you know it, you've got 2 bullets left, 1 bandage, and your supply of grenades is nearly gone. Then, the worst happens. The generator dies and the lights go out. Now it's just you and your flashlight. It barely lights a few feet ahead and the beast is getting closer. So you ask yourself, do I fight? Do I run? Do I even have what I need to survive? But the most important question is, how the hell do I get out of here? In the bunker, you'll constantly be asking yourself those questions. This game never holds your hand. It forces you to think, to adapt, and to use every scrap of hope you can find. Because the truth is, those 2 bullets in your pistol, they won't save you. Your only weapon is your mind. I adore the survival horror genre. Resource management can always make a horror game 10 times more intense. The fear of running out of medkits or ammo always runs in the back of your mind, and you will always try and find a way not to waste your precious ammo, so you'll use the pea shooter until the very end, and only use the more powerful weapons for tougher enemies. And if you blow through all of that on weaker foes, you'll be wishing you didn't make that mistake when you fight a boss, forcing you to restart from the beginning.
Oh my.
That in itself is horror. Whenever I'm playing a Resident Evil game, I'm always that guy who will leave the Magnum in the storage box to collect dust and hoard the ammo until the end, just so I can brute force the final boss. I did the exact same thing when I played Signalis, and this sort of strategy always works. Or if I'm playing a Silent Hill game, I will never use ammo until the very end, because you can just run around every monster you encounter. But is Silent Hill really a survival horror? Meh, not really.
Shut your stinking mouth, bitch!
The point is, in my experience, this strategy always works, because every single survival horror copies the exact same formula as Resident Evil, resulting in these games lacking challenge. Sure, there are harder modes that make the game cruel, looking at you Akuma mode.
Oh my god, it's so unfair!
But the one thing these games tend to do is empower you. You could argue that is down to how the player plays the game, and you're not wrong. That's what makes these games fantastic. Strategy is the core element these games have. Not every playthrough will look the same, and some others may use different methods to you. Now, I do consider myself a professional when it comes to Resident Evil-like games. And there lies my problem, they've become too easy. So I've been looking at different kinds of survival horror, where it ensures the player will always be the mouse in the chase. And this led me to Amnesia: The Bunker. A brutal, hardcore survival horror that will always make you feel weak.
You're kidding me.
It completely caught me off guard. I have never experienced a game quite like this, and there were many moments where I had to restart.
Well, I just fucked myself.
Because I was that guy who shot the rats to get them out of the way, only to then realise they respawn.
You're fucking joking!
I also assumed the safe room would always be, you know, safe. That's until I saw a large hole in the wall and discovered the monster camping the save point. What the fuck? Open the fucking door, man. I can't open the door. There's something blocking the door. I have never ever seen that happen before. This is the type of game where you think you have it all worked out, but it always finds a way to throw a wrench into the works. It's an unrelenting survival horror that doesn't pull on its punches, and I love it. I beat this game multiple times because its gameplay loop was so addicting. New Game Plus doesn't empower you, it just makes you weaker and adds more roadblocks for you to figure out. I eventually built up the confidence to tackle this game on shell shock, and my god, I can't put into words just how cruel it was. So let's start from the very beginning. So grab your white flag and helmet, insert your French army joke here, and get ready to enter the trench for fuck's sake. To survive this war, you will need two things. First, a basic set of skills. Second, the good goddamn sense to do whatever's necessary. I can teach you the first. The second is up to you. The game begins like a typical World War I experience. We cross no man's land and retreat into friendly trenches. There's shelling all around us and bullets constantly flying over our heads. Not even 10 seconds into the game and it's already exposing us to its horrors. And we haven't even seen the spooky monster yet. This setting alone could be a horror game. They absolutely nailed the atmosphere of this war. Brutal, muddy warfare where every moment was unpredictable. Snipers overwatching your trench. Artillery that felt non-stop. Mustard gas attacks that could happen at any moment. And the potential chance of the enemy entering your trenches. But I think I'd rather camp behind my sandbags over being sent into no man's land. It's called that for a reason. This segment is rather short since it's basically a tutorial. It's teaching us the basic skills. Whatever happens next is completely up to you. Survival is all that matters. Our trench is suddenly gassed, but thankfully we're saved by an unknown friendly.
We're dying on yours. We make it out of this hell together. Now follow me. We're nearly there.
It abruptly ends, but this only brings us back into no man's land. This time, everything is eerily quiet. We have left our trench for an unknown reason, but it quickly becomes apparent why. Roughly 50 meters from safety, we stumble upon a large crater. At the bottom, we see a man lying there, wounded and unable to move. Things become clear. This is a rescue mission. We climb down to him with some rope and give him some water from the puddle. And I don't know about you, but I wouldn't drink the water in no man's land. Who knows what kind of shit is in that?
Here, drink this. Then I'm going to get you out of here.
We somehow get the man to safety, but it's not over quite yet. His leg is injured and is unable to move on his own. We have no other choice but to carry him back, and due to all the noise we made, the Germans discovered us close to their trench. A flare gets shot into the air and exposes us to every ready rifle pointing in our direction. The outcome was to be expected. After an unknown amount of time has passed, we find ourselves back inside our bunker. We have just woken from a coma and now everyone is gone. On the desk in the other room, we can find some information about our current state. Whoever we are, he has amnesia. He cannot recall recent events or even his own name. Thankfully, his surname was left on the report. This will be useful later as it will help to retrieve personal belongings and may help give us some answers. It's actually outside where we find the first piece of this puzzle. Inside this medical cabinet, we can find a flashlight and a diary entry. It belongs to us. It was written a day before the doctor's amnesia report. His name is Henry and he may have been in a weak coma state, but he was able to write down how he's feeling while he had some energy. Based off its contents, it seems like he's holding onto some guilt.
This thing I've done. This thing.
The events before didn't tell us much, but it may have something to do with the soldier he tried to save. Now, the halls are pitch black. This place is obviously in a terrible state, and parts of the bunker are out of power. Thankfully, there was a conveniently placed flashlight for us, but this fucking sucks. Yeah, I will talk about this a bit later. Let's first find out what the hell is even going on. It's inside the mess hall where we find something interesting. there are large holes in the wall, like something has tunneled its way in. Digging tunnels towards the enemy wasn't uncommon during this war, but not like this. It's towards the pantry where we hear the first signs of life.
Hello? Is someone there?
A weak voice speaks out for us, and leading us to him is a trail of blood. We find a man who thought he was the last alive, and now he's in his last moments. He spends it smoking a cigarette and informs us of the current situation. We are trapped down here. The officers ran away from whatever the hell is going on down here and blew up the only entrance out to prevent something from escaping, at the great cost of leaving everyone else behind to face it. He puts it simply, it's a monster. It has killed every living soul down here, and from the sounds of it, it isn't leaving anytime soon. There is some hope left, however. In order to get out, we must blow up the rubble blocking the exit. We can find dynamite in the arsenal and the detonator in the excavation tunnels. Getting to those two locations is up to us. This man is in no shape to help. He instead wants us to finish him off before the monster does.
Here, take this. Finish me off, please. I want to die at the hands of a brother soldier, not that monster.
He hands us his pistol and tells us where to find the bullets. 2 bullets will always spawn here just in case, well, you know, if you miss. But that won't matter. Approaching him causes the beast to break through the box and brutally fold him like a pancake into the hole. Now, on a different playthrough, I tried to see if I was even able to game end him before the monster does. But no matter what, this will always happen. It even cost me 2 bullets, which actually fucked me here. Because with the knowledge I knew at this point, shooting the padlock in the hallway was the only way out. I did however find a new way to break the lock, and that was in my 4th playthrough, which actually kind of blew me away, but we'll talk about that when the time comes. Now that we know the beast is near, we make a run for administration. This is where Henry's luck continues to get worse. The power goes out and it leaves us in the dark. We have nothing but our flashlight now, and trust me, this isn't a good substitute. This is the safe room. It's one of the few places that has metal doors, and they're strong enough to stop the monster, as long as you lock them, of course.
Nah, shit out of Shan. Fuck off. Dick.
Similar to Resident Evil, this room will be where you save your game and store your items. But unlike Resident Evil, the item box isn't unlimited. It only has 16 slots.
What? Oh, hell no! Hell no!
There is a way around this though. You do have the option to drop items if you want, and they are persistent. So if you want to be an absolute god sweat, you can just drop all your fuel by the generator instead of leaving it inside the box. You can do this with any item but required ones like firearms and tools. There is also a map of the bunker above the storage box, and is one of the main reasons you will be frequently returning. Because unlike most survival horrors, this game does not have a map you can view at any time, which is a reason why this game can be so tricky. Most of the time, you will be running around in the dark, and it's very easy to get lost, especially if you forget where you need to go.
Oh, mate. Where do I even fucking go?
Clues you find in the bunker will highlight key areas on the map for you, but the game will never directly tell you what you need to do. Only the information you find will give you some sort of hint. Right now, it's completely blank. In the generator room, you will find a poor lad who spent his final moments sniffing this fuel. He won't be needing that now. In order to get the power back on, we obviously have to refuel the generator. But don't get your hopes up. This canister alone barely adds anything to it, and that won't even last. It takes about 5 canisters to fill it up, and that will only give you 14 minutes. In every playthrough I did, I was incredibly stingy with my fuel because it has multiple uses. So it's important you don't get carried away, and it's just as important to get comfortable with the dark. The strategy I came up with proved pretty useful as it allowed me to utilise the generator for more important segments. Whenever I needed more supplies or information, I would always do it in the dark because that way I can take my time. Once I was ready to tackle something more important, I would flip the generator on so it would be easier to navigate. And if I was successful, I would rush back immediately to shut it off to save fuel. There is more to keeping the lights on however, and it may entice you to keep them on, but we'll talk about that once we meet the beast. I left the safe room without turning it on, so I had to use the flashlight to navigate. And let me tell you, this thing is basically a dinner bell. This light has to be manually powered every time. After a few pulls on the string, it should give you full power for roughly a minute. As time ticks down, the light gradually gets weaker, meaning you'll be cranking this shit very often, which isn't exactly ideal because this monster is very sensitive to noise. But right now, you're not in real danger. You can make as much noise as you want, but the monster will never leave its lair, it will only just follow you around. I obviously didn't know that in my first playthrough, so every time that thing crawled over to me, I thought I was about to be sent to heaven. I got so paranoid that I started plugging holes with barrels, hoping that would block it from leaving. Spoiler alert, it does. I even got the achievement for it. So I thought this game was going to be so easy after this point, but really, I was actually naive to this. I will talk about the monster's behaviour real soon, but the only reason this monster broke out, because it knew I was there. It wasn't suspicious, it knew. Right now, we can't actually explore much of the bunker, because it's still in lockdown. We can release it by turning this valve and... Okay, so we have to find a new wheel. It wouldn't be a survival horror without some good old fashioned key fetching. Oh wait, that's convenient. It's in a locker right next to it. Oh, of course, it needs a fucking code. This military storage room is filled with lockers that all require combinations, and there's only one way you can find them. Each locker is tied to a soldier, and you can pretty much find all of them, well, dead inside somewhere. The combination for this locker we need will always be in the same place no matter what. The game pretty much remains the same in terms of progression, but for the rest of the combinations, it is completely random. In one playthrough, you might find the combination for the shotgun in Arsenal, but in others, you might find it in Maintenance. The codes are also never the same, but randomly generated. This ensures greasers don't start a new playthrough and then just end up beating the game in like 10 minutes. This also applies for items you find in the bunker. It's all random. Things like grenades, bandages, medkits, ammo will never be in the same place. The combination for Del Lee's locker isn't exactly hard to find since there aren't many places to search. But if you want to make it quicker, you can see where his room is on the map. It's in the officer's quarters, a place where you can see the desperate attempts the French soldiers made to kill the monster. The bunker is filled with these kind of traps and environmental storytelling. Tripwires are everywhere and can really be a serious pain in the arse when you're running from the monster. But you can also use them to your advantage. By avoiding tripwires, you can save them for later just in case you have a run-in with your bunker buddy. It will viciously chase you through the halls, and it will be blind to the tripwires. Some of them will have frag grenades attached to them, maybe gas grenades, or even a flare that will set fire to some spilled oil. On paper, this sounds like a good strategy to hurt the monster, but in most cases, it won't give a shit and will just continue to chase you. Grenade traps take too long to explode, and gas grenades take time to spread. Fire, however, is your best friend. It is terrified of it and will most likely retreat. So the best way to use traps is to trigger them yourself while you're running away. That will give it enough time to make a wall between you and the monster, but don't stick around for too long because it's only going to flank you from a different location if you continue to make noise. Either hide or run. The traps you can't really avoid right now are the ones hooked up the doors. If you open it enough, it will trigger it and it's either going to be a grenade trap, gas, or even a flare sitting above some oil. In some cases, you can bypass these traps by finding some other way in, or fuck it, just open the door mate, what's the worst that can happen?
Fucking idiot, Jeremy! You total fucking idiot!
Further into the game, there will be a way to disable these traps, and it's actually a good idea to preserve some of them. Depending on what kind of strategy you're going for, it may be a good idea to avoid all these traps together, because they will have some future use once you obtain a certain item. One other thing to note in the officer's quarters are these explosive barrels, and oh boy, these things are your best friends. I immediately had a plan in mind as soon as I saw one, and that was to move them into certain spots so that I can use them as traps. But I will come back to this.
Oh!
First, let's get the code for the locker. You will find his room at the end of the hall and oh, that's not pretty. You can see that he desperately tried to barricade himself in, but it made a tunnel to get to him instead. I sure hope that doesn't happen to my safe room. On his body, you will find his dog tag. This is all we need, but there are some extra goodies in this room. Like this bag for example. This will expand your inventory size by 1. On hard, you can get an additional 7 slots if you find all 7 bags. Some of them have fixed spawns, while others are entirely random. There are 14 possible spawn points, and to be honest, I can't be asked to show you each location, so good hunting. There is one other thing left here before we leave, and that's this note left on the table. It's from a soldier named LaRue. He's writing to his superiors about an event that took place in the excavation tunnels. Apparently, they've uncovered Roman tunnels, and it appears they are haunted. While he was in the deepest parts of it, he experienced some sort of hallucination. It was nothing but darkness until some weird light approached him from a distance. Since then, he's been seeing moving shadows and shapes around him. The reason DeLille has this note is because LaRue was one of his men. Judging by all the disturbing drawings on the wall, it appears these nightmares got to him too. Now that we have his code, we can now retrieve the wheel from his locker. This will allow us to release the lockdown, but here's a warning. Once it's lifted, shit is about to get real. With every area open, the monster enters the game.
Nah, shit out of Shan. Fuck off. Dick.
Okay, fine. Let's finally talk about this thing. This monster is simply known as the Stalker. It roams freely around the bunker in unpredictable patterns. The only way it's going to find you, however, is through noise. And trust me, avoiding that isn't easy. Gunshots, explosions, breaking things and running will all give the monster a hint as to where you are. It works off information rather than the game just telling it exactly where you are. So for example, if I shoot my gun in one area and then run to another, it will investigate the source of the sound. It mainly does this by wandering around until it finds you or gives up. The thing is, this monster isn't actively hunting you at all times. You could be down in maintenance while the monster could be chilling in the soldiers' quarters. The lad can go wherever it wants basically. Sometimes it will end up in the same area as you and it won't even know you're there. If you're unlucky, it may leave its hole to wander the halls, but other times it will just sit inside it, listening. If it hears you or something in the environment makes a sound, it can either leave to investigate or sit and wait, basically setting up its own trap. The Stalker has 2 stages, passive and active. In passive mode, it will usually leave you alone, since it's waiting for information to act on, but that doesn't mean you won't run into it in the open. Most of the information I'm going over came from other YouTubers, who've done amazing breakdowns of the AI in far more detail. Some of the background footage belongs to them, so I've linked their videos below if you want to learn more. Now once the monster spots the player, it enters active mode. This will make it relentlessly chase you. It uses every advantage it has to catch up or even flank you, using the many holes in the walls to move around. It's pretty fast, but the player will always be faster in the chase. However, if unpredictable mode is enabled, it can actually use the tunnels to cut you off. If you lock yourself inside a room, it might not even bother with the door. It could just go around using the tunnels, or if the door is wooden, it will break it down.
What?
And if you decide to hide under a bed or inside a cabinet, it makes a list of possible interest points you could be hiding in. It can have up to 10 spots to search within a 10-meter radius, so if you made noise before hiding, it still has a chance to find you. Honestly, it's probably better to quietly flee if you can. Now, when the power is off, the stalker becomes a lot more aggressive. Things escalate much quicker when it's dark. It will investigate for longer and roam around as much as it wants. If it's actively looking for you, it gets thorough, checking every nook and cranny, and if it knows for sure that you're nearby, it might just wait inside one of its holes, ready to fuck your shit up if you get too close. However, having the power on makes the monster far more passive. It rarely leaves its holes unless it hears something, and even then, it won't linger for long. It will also search fewer places and will quickly return to hiding. With all that said, noise is your worst enemy, but also your best friend. You can bait the monster into certain areas just by making sound. Use bottles, grenades, gunshots, or even tripwires, and depending on the level of noise, it will come investigate for a bit before giving up. That gives you a brief window of opportunity. There is a lot more to its AI, but I'm not going to spend 10 years explaining it all in one segment. What I am going to do is talk about the strategies I came up during my playthroughs, and the lessons I learned along the way. One thing I love about this game is that it never cheats you. You can always hear the monster whenever it's nearby, and it's not exactly the quiet type. It's loud when it crawls around the walls, and even when it's roaming. Hell, even when it's trying to catch you off guard by hiding inside one of its holes, it's loud. The game never throws a random cheat jump scare at you, and it will never kill you unfairly. You learn off its behaviour. It's how you adapt and experiment to find ways to avoid it or even fight it. Having the power on not only makes the monster more passive, but it tells you where it is. So for example, if I leave my safe room and I see flickering lights towards the arsenal, it's in there somewhere. With that information, it allows you to investigate other areas with ease. And if you're far enough, you could run around if you wanted to, but don't get too comfortable. It might just randomly roam over to you and you don't want to be caught running in the halls. Your first instinct would probably be to shoot it, right? But I'm here to tell you, that isn't really a good idea. Yes, you can hurt it, but if you want it to piss off, it will cost you 2 bullets. Here's the problem, ammo is extremely scarce in this game. I've beaten the game multiple times on hard, and the most amount of bullets I found in a single playthrough was probably 8. I've only ever had the revolver fully loaded once, and that was because I was being stingy. The revolver isn't just a weapon, but also a tool. The game has already shown us the use it has, and that's opening locked doors. There's a few of them in the game, and having the revolver is super convenient. If you want the most out of it, don't waste your ammo by shooting the monster directly. It's not only a waste, but it's quite clunky to use. Unlike Call of Duty, pressing R won't load the thing in a second. To load it, you have to manually open the cylinder and then load each bullet individually. This can take a while, and it's even slower if you forget to empty it. There's been moments where I went to go shoot something and I forgot to load it with fresh ammo. The best way to use the revolver in my opinion is to save the ammo for locks and explosive barrels. It only costs a single shot to make a barrel go boom, and this will send a fucker back home. When I first learned how powerful they were, I made sure to move every single one to convenient spots so that I can use it to hurt the monster, or you can push it to any locked door and use the barrel to blow it up. I made sure to park it in a spot where I can destroy multiple doors with just one shot, and it proved very useful. Within the first hour however, I learned something very important, and it has saved me ammo many times. I left a barrel near the officer's quarters, then I suddenly heard the monster coming towards me. This is what happened. The monster will attack objects that are directly in front of it, meaning I can place barrels next to holes as traps. But you can also bait it towards a barrel if you wanted to. I even had this big brain moment where I made the monster give me a 2-in-1 deal. As it destroyed the barrel, he not only severely hurt himself, he also blew up all these doors for me. Using barrels like this can save you so much ammo if used right, and it can make gaining access to certain areas so much more convenient. But later into the game, the monster adapted. Instead of destroying the barrels, it would go around instead.
No, it was! I thought he was going to go for the barrel. Oh.
It isn't guaranteed to work, but it's better than wasting precious ammo. Okay, so the lockdown is lifted. What next? Well, you would probably run straight into Arsenal, right? Since that's where the dynamite is. Not only that, the excavation tunnels are also there. But we hit a dead end. The Arsenal needs a code, and the way to excavation is locked and flooded. We did learn two things, however. Firstly, we need a code. No shit. Secondly, we need something to break these chains. After discovering this, I spent the next hour wandering around with no clue what to do. So for time's sake, let's just skip to the part where I found out. Down in the prison, you will find a German prisoner who was brutally being tortured. Before the beast showed up, this soldier was held in the bunker because his rank and insignia was missing upon his capture. A major within the bunker recommended to his commander that they should interrogate him for information. He accepted and appointed a man named Reynard to carry out the torture. His methods were pretty brutal. As you can see, he has left a pair of bolt cutters in his cell. However, these interrogations would suddenly stop. One night, Reynard's body was discovered, brutally mutilated in a sadistic way that shook the entire bunker. It was around this time that many soldiers were convinced there was a monster lurking in the walls, but the commander was convinced these were just stupid rumours. He accused the prisoner of escaping his cell and committing the murder himself, which would have been impossible. Desperate for answers, he would ruthlessly interrogate his own men because he was fearing for his own life, since before the murder, many of his men had been speaking of nightmares in the excavation site. The rumours got so bad that it caused one particular event to happen down in the Roman tunnels. After that moment, the trust between the commander and his own men began to dwindle. He called it sabotage. The only way we can open his cell is through this control panel, but the room is locked. On the other side, however, is a vent. If you're extremely unlucky though, there's a possible chance the door leading to it is locked. There's only one explosive barrel that can spawn down here, and it's behind this door. So you will have to get creative. Do you by any chance have a grenade? These things kinda suck at hurting the monster. And you're actually better off using them as pocket barrels. The explosion it puts out is enough to destroy multiple doors. It's the perfect breaching tool. But if you don't have one, then unlucky. You'll have to go find yourself a huge fucking brick to carry around instead. Bricks are not perfect, but it's better than nothing. You can destroy up to 2 doors before it breaks, and they're heavy. What makes it even worse is their spawns are completely random. One may not even spawn anywhere near close to the door you want to break, so you have to haul that thing around. It's obviously a much quieter solution to the barrel and hand grenade, and if stealth is what you want, then the brick is perfect. There's also one other thing it can do, and it kind of blew me away. In one of my playthroughs, I wasted the 2 bullets the soldier gives you, and I was unable to get out. That was until I found a brick in the very room he was sitting in, and decided to try it on the padlock. And who would have fucking thought? A strong 20 kilo brick is able to destroy a lock. I know that may be obvious to some, but for me, I was psyoped into believing the gun was the only solution since it's the first roadblock you run into. If lockpicking lawyer is able to open a master lock with a master lock, then it's obvious a huge brick can too. Once you're in, there's just one more problem. You now need to find yourself a wrench. You're in luck, however. There's a note right beside the vent that will tell you it's in maintenance somewhere. Well, actually, it's in Foreman's locker, so you will need to find his body for the combination. The note is your hint on where you can find him. Before we head down there though, there's one very important roadblock we need to talk about. Rats. These are hands down the most annoying fuckers in the game, and will ruin your day if you get too close. They do small amounts of damage, but when they're in a group, that's when they become dangerous. Most of the time, you will find them feasting on French cuisine, and they will be blocking your path. These dickheads are everywhere, and can be just as dangerous as the monster. But really, the most annoying thing about them is that they're just in your way all the time. You can run past them if you want, but they will take a bite out of you. This is something you really want to avoid, because they can cause bleeds. If this does happen to you, don't worry, you're not losing health. but you are leaving behind a trail of blood which the rats can follow. If you don't patch yourself up, rats can basically wander anywhere you go, sometimes even right outside your safe room. To prevent this, you will either need a bandage or a first aid kit. Bandages will stop all bleeding and even recover some of your health. However, they're not exactly easy to come by. If you get insane RNG, you should find a decent amount. If not, you are able to craft them, which is a mechanic I haven't spoken about yet, but now's the perfect time because soon I will be talking about it a lot. If you find 2 pieces of cloth, you can combine them together to make a bandage. It's pretty common to find in this game, and that's because there's a lot you can do with it. Unlike bandages though, first aid kits are really rare to find. I think the most I've ever found in a single playthrough was 4 or 5. They fully recover your health no matter what, but takes a century to use, and if you use it near the monster, pray it doesn't come towards you, because once that animation begins, you're committed. I recommend using bandages most of the time because the rats are the ones that will be hurting you the most. The monster usually kills you instantly when it finds you, so there's no reason to carry meds around. Interestingly enough, the rats can act as a warning to you. If the monster is nearby, the rats will flee from the area and use the holes to escape. But that's not really a good enough reason to keep them around. So how do you get rid of them? Well, you could go on pest control and sweep the entire bunker. Obviously, that's not an option. They would respawn anyway because you didn't tackle the source of the problem. If you want the rats gone for good, you will need to burn their dinner. This will ensure they never return to that particular area, but do note, you will have to do this for everybody you encounter. So I hope you didn't waste all of your fuel on the generator. But before you can do any of that, you will need to obtain the lighter. In my opinion, the best item in the game. It will always spawn in this locker, but the code for it has a random spawn. Most dog tags are on the bodies the rats are eating. If you want the lighter, then I suggest you sort the rats out and then worry about them later. Once you do have the lighter though, it's time to start perishing them. By pouring a canister of fuel onto the body, you will have the option to light it. It can be dangerous depending how close you are, but it's better than a rat taking a chunk out of you. If you somehow burnt through all of your fuel, you can make a torch by combining wood and cloth. You can use this to scare off the rats for the time being, but it doesn't last very long. Honestly, it kind of sucks. I suggest not wasting cloth like this, because it can be used to make something much better. The best and safest way to burn bodies is with a good old fashioned firebomb. Bottles in this game are everywhere. You can use them as a distraction tool for the monster, but I prefer to keep them safe so that I can make firebombs as soon as possible. By combining a bottle with some cloth, you will make the firebomb, but you need to add fuel to it. Now I know what you're thinking, why do that when you can just pour it onto the body instead? Well, you run the risk of taking damage. Firebombs ensure you don't waste bandages or first aid kits, but hold onto your fuel. There's another way to fill the bottles. All the way down in maintenance, you can find a fuel storage room, with a very subtle hint. By bringing bottles to this room, you can fill them up for future use or make them into firebombs. And as far as I'm aware, this is unlimited. Fuel storage is hands down one of the best rooms in the entire game. With this, you can clear out a majority of the rat infestation. Even if you don't have enough cloth to make firebombs, you can still fill up an empty bottle with fuel, making it into a little fuel canister that you can throw onto bodies, which you can light up. The bottle is pretty much the best item in the game when paired with the lighter, so I urge you to get this tool as soon as possible. But if you have bad RNG with the combinations, then unlucky mate. Now, with everything I just said, maintenance is quite a dangerous place. Wire traps, rats, and the stalker's lair, but we'll talk about that in a second. The first room you will find is the clerk's office. This room, unlike the others, isn't locked but boarded up. You can just pull them off to gain access, and inside you will find the map for maintenance. Each subsector will be blank on your main map back in the safe room unless you obtain these maps. They're not hard to find as it's always the first room you will find in each section. This will pretty much guide you exactly where you need to go, but the rest is up to you. In this case, the maintenance map points us straight to Foreman's quarters, but obviously you won't find him there. Instead, you will find a note he left behind. To get away from the monster, he decided the safest spot would be up in the pillbox. Getting there, however, is a bit tricky. The only path displayed on the map is locked, and there isn't a way that I know to open it. The only option you have is through this tunnel the monster dug. It's of course filled with rats, but you heard me yap about them for 5 minutes, so you know how I got through them. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention actually, you can find chunks of meat in this game that you can use to lure rats with. It's an okay item. I didn't really use it all that much because fire was more effective. In typical survival horror fashion, the place we need to go to is of course locked. You will find a note stuck to the wall telling Foreman the keys are in the chapel. It's only down the hall from here, but there is another way in. If you're packing 2 hand grenades, you can just blow your way in through the storage room. But if you don't, then the chapel is your only option. This holy place has now been turned into a hellish lair. The monster has brought many of its victims here and put them up on display in a very sadistic way, all mutilated beyond recognition. These are more like trophies than anything. Even though the monster acts very animalistic, it's definitely aware of what it's doing. It's keeping its victims in a place many would call sanctuary during a war. It's almost like a sick joke. Inside one of the confession booths, you will find part 1 of someone's journal. It belongs to a man named Lambert, or Lambert if you're French. He's someone who knows Henry very well and he has a lot to say. Not only is it Henry's friend, but it's the man we saved from that strange pit in no man's land. He's alive somehow, but that's not the strangest part. Lambert was the man who actually saved Henry despite being wounded himself and was unable to move without assistance. Judging by his own personal thoughts, even he believes this was some sort of miracle.
I feel I must record the extraordinary twists of fate and fortune that have led me to be here. Breathing, alive, strong and well, while Henri lies unconscious, fighting for his life. I do not know where I found the strength to carry him, but carry him I did, all the way back to our bunker.
He ended up falling down into the pit while on patrol and spent a couple of days at the bottom, in pain and all alone. By the time Henry found him, he was on the verge of death. But no, even after being shelled, he regained strength to save Henry, and the journal gives you a hint on what could possibly be behind the miracle. The water from the spring he was lying next to left quite the impression on him.
Found a trickle of spring water there and had me drink from it. It was cool and crisp with a strange, sweet taste. Never has water felt more nourishing than that.
With the pillbox key collected, we start climbing our way up to Foreman. If he somehow made it, he might actually still be— oh, never mind. Even though he managed to escape the hell below, he forgot one crucial thing. There's still a fucking war raging on and he had his mind blown. One very cool detail this game added is this. Exposing yourself for too long makes you the perfect target for a bush camping pussy. So with that knowledge, I made sure to keep my head down. There's obviously no wrench up here, but Foreman does have the code to his locker. With that, we can make a mad dash back to his locker to finally get the tool we need to progress. We are now able to get to the prison controls, but do make sure to refuel your generators. This part requires power. Finally, after all of that, we now have a nice pair of bolt cutters, which we can use to gain access to the excavation tunnels. But there is one thing left on the agenda. We still need the code to Arsenal. The soldiers' quarters is the only place we've yet to explore, so it's safe to assume it's down there. Oh yeah, even though we've used the wrench for the prison, there's still a few places you can use it. For example, this place in maintenance. If you do not have the wrench yet, there's only 2 other ways in, either by shooting the lock or blowing it up. With the wrench, you can quietly enter through a vent and loot the goodies inside. Back in the officers' quarters, there's a storage room filled with empty bottles you can open up too. There is an option to open it with bolt cutters, which I did find kind of odd. Why would I wait to use the bolt cutters when I can use the wrench? I don't know, but the option's there I guess. The bolt cutters, however, is a far more versatile tool than the wrench though, as you're able to not only break chains with it, but also padlocks. There's still a few of these around, and having a much stealthier option is great. It beats having to carry a heavy ass brick around to break one open. The bolt cutters can also disable any trap in the game, letting you replenish any spent grenades. which is why I mentioned it's important not to trigger all of them, or ideally any of them at all. And be sure to grab as many flares as you can, because where we're going, you're going to need them. The soldiers' quarters is much smaller compared to maintenance, yet just as tricky. For one, it's incredibly narrow, filled with choke points and dead ends. One wrong turn and you might have to fight your way out. Or if you're lucky, take shelter under these beds. Then again, you're still not completely safe. There's actually something very creepy I started noticing around this point in the game, and it's how the monster is behaving. It's becoming a lot more patient, and there's a reason for that. It's learning.
What the fuck? No, we didn't. What? I thought he was going to go for the barrel.
I usually play quite aggressively. I like to use the generator, then rush to my objectives to save fuel. Early on, it was pretty easy to avoid the monster, as I could always hear it approaching. I figured out ways to distract it, and if I was spotted, I just run. Easy. Thing is, the game takes note of how you play, and it adapts accordingly. Depending on the layout of the bunker, the monster changes its behaviour. If you open up too many areas, it will start lurking more unpredictably and for much longer. At times, I'd randomly run into it, and weirdly, it wasn't making as much noise anymore. And that's because I'd been too aggressive. The monster started waiting in unusual spots, trying to catch me off guard. It would even pretend to leave areas by staying dead silent. It also became much harder to distract. It would still investigate noises, but it wouldn't be as interested anymore. In the game files, this mechanic is called Escalation. After each major objective, the monster adjusts based on your playstyle. If you run around a lot, it becomes sneakier, more passive, waiting to ambush you.
Surprise, motherfucker!
If you play slower, it ramps up the pressure. It does this by patrolling more often and by checking hiding spots more thoroughly. It even tries to trick the player by going silent or by fake leaving. There's a great video on this by the real Pogo Pogo, fantastic name by the way. He breaks down the different behaviours the monster adopts depending on your actions. If you want the full breakdown on how Escalation works, I highly recommend his series. I tried to explain it myself, but honestly, I have no fucking clue what I'm talking about, so go listen to the professional. Anyway, bring flares. Not only do they light up the area, they're also the best distraction tool in the game. The soldiers' quarters were wired by an amateur electrician. The power lines are daisy-chained, meaning only one area can be powered at a time. The switch we need is this one. It's in the pantry. Getting there though, a bit spooky. It's a dead end, and once you're down there, your only way out is the way you came. If the monster follows you in, you need to fight your way out. Once you flip the correct switch, there's one more problem to solve. Finding the key. Of course there is. The key box is just down the hall, but you'll need to break through a door. But you've been played. The key is actually hidden in one of the bunks. So how do you find it? Well, you could go through each bunk one by one, or you could break your way into the clerk's office. Inside, you'll find a map showing exactly who owns which bunk, and one thing you will notice is that our bunk is among them. Henry's bunk buddy was of course Lambert. There's a bunch of lore you can find here, but it's best I leave that until we open his personal locker. One thing I will quickly go over is this note in one of the bunks. It turns out these Roman tunnels were going to be used for an attack. It points in the direction of the Germans, and the commanders within the bunker wanted to use it to launch a surprise attack. However, the deeper they dug, things became more twisted. Many reported seeing the same things, but the upper command would ignore these claims and punish those who would continue to speak of it. The man who wrote this journal would actually uncover some of its history. He was past some old Roman scriptures, but he was unable to decipher them. To get his mind off losing a close friend, he would spend many nights obsessing over them. He uncovered that these tunnels weren't used for typical religious practices, but rather dark rituals. The scriptures claimed they have discovered the keys to immortality. Many sacrifices happen down there, and many of their spirits are stuck. The writer of this journal would eventually enter these tunnels alone to find some way of ending this. His fate is unknown, but a group of allies would soon follow. Soldiers within the bunker formed a secret sabotage group. Their plan was to go into the tunnels with a large amount of explosives to hopefully seal it for good. They were able to pull it off, but it only made things worse. The commander captured most of them and had them all ruthlessly interrogated by Reynard. We recover the key from the dorms and head straight up into the radio room. Interacting with the speaker plays a message left by one of the commanders who fled from the bunker, basically asking for forgiveness and leaving them the Arsenal code.
I hope that you can hear me. I hope that you can forgive me. The Arsenal code is 02001.
We have what we need now, but we might as well open Henry's locker on the way back. Inside, you will find 2 pages from his journal, along with a picture of him and Lambert. The first page reveals that Henry cheated him. They had to decide between them who would go on night patrol, and obviously neither of them wanted to volunteer. So they played a fair game with some dice, where the loser would go outside. However, Henry ensured it wouldn't be him. By using a sleight of hand trick, he was able to cheat his way out. Lambert, of course, had no knowledge of this.
There's no way I'll lose. No, Augustin doesn't have a chance because I'll ensure he doesn't. Me? A scoundrel? Perhaps.
Beat that roll, my friend.
There you have it, huh?
Fate's a bastard. I'm on patrol tonight then. C'est la vie.
As days went by, he would notice Lambert has yet to return. Henry would eventually start to feel overwhelmed with guilt, thinking he sent his friend out to his death. It consumed him so much, he started to believe others knew what he did.
It was nothing. A joke. I thought it was just a joke. I never thought. I never thought. And therein lies my sin.
So one night, he decided the only way he could redeem himself was to go out there and look for him. As we already know, he managed to find and save him, but at a great cost. If it wasn't for Lambert's miracle, he would be dead. This is the last note from Henry. To uncover what's truly happened here, we must dig deeper. It's time to head into the Roman tunnels. Be sure to leave the power on and to bring your bolt cutters. The way in is chained up and the tunnels are flooded. With the power on, you're able to drain the water, which allows you to enter. Now, despite everything we've heard about this place, it's actually the easiest area in the entire game. Why? Well, because there's a save point right outside the main entrance, and there's only one threat you need to worry about once you're inside. The monster will not follow you down here, because there's something else inside that terrifies it. A blind man wielding a shotgun.
What? Oh my god. Oh, I'm still alive.
This is Tusant. He was one of the men involved with the sabotage, though he never actually played a direct role in it. While he was part of the group, his intentions were entirely different when he entered the tunnels. Like many others, he suffered greatly from visions and nightmares, but unlike them, he eventually grew to enjoy them. He believed he could understand the nightmares, claiming he had the right eyes for it. These visions began speaking to him, giving him a new sense of purpose, one he never truly understood. His madness spiraled out of control. He descended into the tunnels, convinced he alone knew how to truly stop it. Tusant broke away from the sabotage group and went deep into the Roman ruins. Since then, no one saw him again. He was presumed dead. On the table, you will see a pair of eyes. These belonged to Tusant. The visions that once brought him ecstasy turned into overwhelming mental torment, so he removed them, hoping the nightmares would stop, but instead they revealed something else entirely. This segment tries to play out like a boss battle, but it's actually piss easy. It may seem scary at first, since he's wielding a shotgun while he torments you. But there's 2 ways you can go about killing him. You could be smart and use explosives, Or you can just camp behind a door and bait him over with noise. While he's reloading, just blast him in the head. There's an even easier way, however. Just rush him.
What the fuck? Oh, relax. Oh, I'm healing, cuh. Tango fucking neutralized.
He's pretty slow since, well, he's fucking blind.
Did you?
Now that he's dead, he won't be needing that shotgun anymore. When I picked this thing up, I felt this sense of security. Finally, I have a powerful weapon that I can use to blast doors, kill rats, and even hurt the monster. But as I searched the bunker more thoroughly, I started to realise something. Where the fuck is the shotgun ammo? It's incredibly rare in this game. I think the most I've ever found in a single playthrough was probably 4 rounds, making this a glorified brick. It's light, can destroy a door with a single shot, and can break padlocks. It sends the monster home with just 1 shot, but trust me, you really want to save the ammo. It's one of the most important tools in the ending segment because it stuns the monster for quite some time. Honestly, the shotgun is one of the worst items in the game because of how rare the ammo is. I get it, it would be overpowered if it wasn't. Oh well, it's pretty cool holding the very thing the Germans called a war crime when they fought the Americans. Yeah, that's a fact by the way. This weapon was so overpowered during the First World War, they protested the use of it because they thought it violated the laws of war. But the Americans were just like, no. Want to see how fast I can stand fire?
Holy fuck!
While you walk around the Roman ruins, there is something rather creepy you will notice. Walking all around us are shadows. They are spirits that were sacrificed down here and now they walk among the living. They won't harm you, however, it's just a spooky detail the devs added, and to be honest, I don't particularly want to be a ghostbuster right now, so let's grab the detonator and get the fuck out of here. Or, if you go deeper, you will find this. We are now back in the very crater we found Lambert in. You can still hear the war rage on, which oddly enough made me feel even more hopeless. We are fighting our own war down here. It's a fight for survival, but what do we do once we're out of here? Where do we even go, or who do we even tell about this madness? If you go over to the very spot we found Lambert in, you will find his dog tag along with this doll. It was meant to be a gift for his son, but he lost it after the fall. It's something he's completely broken up about. He felt hopeless while it laid there all alone. Oddly enough, we have the option to pick it up. There's no use for this item at all, and it seems like a waste of an inventory slot, but trust me, this is important. With his dog tag collected, you can now finally open his locker. At this point, it might even be the last one you open, and no matter what, it will be empty. Except for this. It's the final part to his journal, and it's quite revealing. After being saved by Henry, he changed. He felt stronger than ever, but more bloodthirsty. The nightmares within the bunker didn't affect Lambert since he was dealing with something else. A new purpose. One he didn't understand, but he could feel it. His hands began to feel different, like they no longer belonged to him.
Blood on my hands. Blood on my hands. Blood on my hands. Their pain. I want more of it.
It's become very clear now. The monster is Lambert. But how did this happen? Why was he the only one who was transformed? Well, it's because he drank from the spring. The water Henry collected wasn't just rainwater, it was a liquid that was used for the rituals in the tunnels. After he gave it to Lambert, it slowly transformed him. Since Henry is suffering with amnesia, he most likely forgot this ever happened. However, based on his very first journal entry, I feel like the guilt he was feeling wasn't about him cheating Lambert, but giving him the water from the spring.
This thing I've done. This thing.
So basically, this is all Henry's fault. Don't get too distracted. We are almost out of here. There is just one more step left, and it's in Arsenal. Using the code we got from the soldiers' quarters, we are now finally able to enter it. And wait, this place is empty. Where's all the weapons? No ammo? Medicine? What kind of bunker is this? Well, if you are paying attention to the lore in this game, it actually explains why there's very little ammo. As punishment, the commanders sent soldiers to kill the monster in meat waves. They basically spent all of their ammo since the monster cannot be killed. The only thing left in this place is this fat stack of dynamite. Getting to it, however, is not easy. This place has traps lying around, and it's been turned into a maze as a way to confuse the monster. It's also incredibly open. There's very little places to hide, so if the monster enters this area, it will most likely see you. So I used this opportunity to try out the gas grenades. The monster will avoid any area where there's gas, so if you wanted to, you can fill the entire room with gas and rush for the dynamite. Obviously, it's not as easy as it sounds. Gas grenades can easily backfire. Running through them will deal a ton of damage, and if you're not careful, you could end up trapping yourself. It also doesn't guarantee the monster will ever come close to you, so if you've missed a spot, you're not safe. Yeah, the gas grenade kinda sucks, unless... Somewhere in this game, you will find a certain dog tag that will open a special locker in the storage. If you find the Val's body, you will be able to retrieve his gas mask, an item that makes the gas grenades actually quite decent. You will obviously be immune to all damage, so if you wanted to, you can just fill rooms with gas and the monster will never bother you, at the great cost of losing your hearing and having a reduced field of view. The gas grenades are very situational. Unlike the flare and frag grenades, it really only has one use. It just scares it and that's really it. I know that sounds pretty handy, but it may backfire. You have to be careful when you use it, otherwise you might just trap yourself. Inside the arsenal, there's also this single group of rats, and I forgot to bring a frag grenade, but what's this? A large hefty barrel sitting above them. I wonder if I can give it a slight push and make it fall on top of them. I won't lie, this footage here was from my 5th playthrough and I never knew this was possible. Mainly because this is the only time you can actually kill rats with an object. You even get a little cute achievement for it. With the dynamite collected, it's finally time to leave this putrid place. This, of course, doesn't block the exit, but instead leads into a new tunnel system. Yeah, get ready for one more showdown. We're not done here yet. Make sure to bring the shotgun, any fuel you have left, and of course any grenades you have left. This tunnel is completely separate from the Roman ruins, however it leads to the same place. We enter some large supernatural chamber and the beast is waiting for us. Now this isn't your typical boss fight. Well, it's not really a boss fight at all. All you have to do is reach the other side and climb this wall. That's it. But doing that without the monster catching up is the tricky part. So with the tools on you, you must stall the monster for as long as possible. To do this, you will need to lead it down the longest path away from the escape. You can do this by raising the bridges around you or by setting fire to certain bridges. And honestly, it's as simple as that. This final fight was kinda underwhelming, but after beating the game multiple times, the ending makes sense. You are never going to be able to kill it, so you will have to use your wits to finally escape. But, do you remember that doll? If you throw it at the monster, it recognises it, which tells us that parts of Lambert are still in there. If you want the monster gone forever, you will need to send it back into darkness. By throwing it onto a wooden bridge, it will keep him there long enough for you to blow it up. We are finally back outside. But we haven't truly left hell. We're back in the trenches with the enemy, and even worse, they're approaching. As you can probably tell, Amnesia isn't a long game at all. It takes roughly 4 hours to beat depending how well you play, and if you're experienced enough, you can probably beat it in 2. And I personally love that about this game. Unlike Silent Hill 2 Remake, where they somehow turned a 4 hour long game into 20 hours long, which in my opinion is one of the worst things about it. I love that game, but fuck me does it suck to replay. The Bunker, being a shorter game, encourages replayability, and every playthrough you do will never be the same. If you enable New Game Plus, the game gets even harder and more random. I will go over the changes soon, but first, let me introduce you to Shell Shock, the hardest mode in the entire game. This can only be played on New Game Plus, and Unpredictable mode is enabled by default. There are a lot of evil changes in this that it felt almost impossible to finish. For example, changes to the save room, bandages, the bunker is different, and items have been completely moved around. Once I built up enough confidence, I finally tried out Shell Shock mode because I thought to myself, it can't be that bad, right? New Game Plus begins the same way as usual. We wake up from a coma and head towards the man in the pantry. Except, he's completely missing this time around.
Oh shit, he's not here.
You know what else is gone? The revolver. Meaning, the first vital tool in the game that can hurt the monster is completely gone. And if you're wondering where it is, well, stay tuned. Naturally, we head towards the save room. The devs were kind enough to remove the padlock for us, so we won't be needing that brick anytime soon. Reaching the save room, something immediately feels off. Can you guess what it is? The metal doors have been replaced with wooden ones, completely rendering this room into an unsafe one. Get it? The next thing you will notice, and this is a scary one, saving your game now requires fuel, which by the way is very rare on Shell Shock mode. In fact, every single piece of equipment is scarce. Grenades, bandages, first aid kits, and obviously ammo. Resource management gets taken to a whole new level on Shell Shock. You will need to seriously think about where you allocate your fuel, and don't forget, one of the most important uses it has is burning bodies. Not to mention powering the generator. Now, you have to think about saving some just so you can save your game. I didn't want to waste fuel immediately, so I decided not to save my game yet. The game plan here was to see how far I could get without saving and only use the fuel when things get uncomfortable, which was my first big mistake. I got 2 hours into my first attempt and I trapped myself, leading to me restarting from the very beginning. Now, I'm not going to showcase my entire playthrough because I don't want this video to be longer than it needs to be, but I do want to give you an idea of the struggles I had. The next obvious place to head to is the locker rooms, and guess what? Majority of them are gone. Almost all of them have been randomly placed in the bunker, including the very locker that contains the lighter, one of the most important items in the game as it's the only way you can burn bodies. I'm pretty sure I don't really need to tell you how much of a big deal that is, especially on Shell Shock. Rats are your biggest threat. Ignore the monster for a moment because these buggers are no joke, mainly because they cause bleeding. On Shell Shock, bleeding now causes you to lose health, so if you don't have a bandage on standby, you will die. Even worse, they're much rarer to come by. They also do not heal you anymore, and now you will need to rely on first aid kits, which again are pretty rare. My game plan was to obtain the lighter as soon as I lifted the lockdown, as it would be almost impossible getting a wrench without it. Maintenance is filled with rats, so I can't just be running around with them inside. I needed to make sure I saved as many bandages as possible just in case of bleeds, which, spoiler alert, happened a lot. Once I finally found the lighter, my next plan was to get into fuel storage. But this is where I hit my first serious roadblock. It now requires a code to open, one that I never found because I didn't know where to look. I spent basically my entire playthrough using the fuel to burn bodies as I didn't have enough to make firebombs with. As you can probably tell, this burnt through my fuel a lot, and I spent majority of my playthrough sneaking in the dark. I had to save fuel for more important segments, so I didn't have the luxury of keeping the lights on. Eventually, I managed to stockpile combinations from bodies, and now it was just a matter of finding the lockers. However, I could spend the next 10 or 20 minutes explaining just how hard Shell Shock was. But I'm here to tell you now, I finished it with complete ease. This isn't because I was really good at the game though. I cheated. Well, sort of. Hey, it's not my fault, it's actually the game's. It has one major flaw that makes it incredibly easy. After my very first death, I learnt something that would break this entire playthrough, and that was the combinations. They stay exactly the same as soon as you start the game. Basically, once the game begins, it picks a completely random seed for you. But let's say I get 4 hours into the game and die, which sends me all the way back to the beginning, the combinations will remain the same. So that means I don't have to go looking for them again, because I can just look back at my footage for the codes. With that, I beat Shell Shock in just 4 hours. I know that's a bit anticlimactic, but I'm not going to sit here and lie. I essentially exploited the fact that combinations never change upon death. But of course, if you didn't know this mode is extremely brutal, and it's something that really puts you to the test. Covering this game has been quite the experience. All the struggles, the victories and heartbreaks, this game is one emotional rollercoaster, and it's easily one of the best survival horrors I've ever played. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching and take care.